Right, welcome on board. President William Ruto has issued a stern warning to international organizations who are allegedly sponsoring violence in Kenya. Speaking in Nakuru County during an inspection tour of development projects on Monday, Ruto said those sponsoring violence and anarchy in Kenya will not be tolerated. The head of state said that his government will not spare anyone bankrolling young Kenyans to cause mayhem in the streets during peaceful protest. Bushebi Jr. with more.
Hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani?
In what is seen as a direct attack on an 88-year-old US foundation, President William Ruto on Monday turned his guns on the Ford Foundation, an American non-governmental organization, accusing it of financing the recent anti-government protests in Kenya.
Wale ambao wanaleta pesa sijui kutoka wapi ati kujaribu kununua fujo, ati vijana wafanye fujo Kenya, hawa wauni tutawakomesha. Ama namna gani jameni? Na wale wahalifu wote, hata wale wameleta hasara mpaka watoto wetu wasichana kule Kware wamepoteza maisha yao kwa sababu ya wakora na kwa sababu ya watu criminals.
During his tour in Nakuru, the president scoffed at them for sponsoring the Generation Z demonstrations where protesters gained entry to key government institutions including parliament.
Munataka watu watununulie vijana ati wafanye fujo katika Kenya? We have no use for anarchy and violence and destruction of property and loss of life. Wale ambao wana sponsor hiyo violence, sisi tunawajua. And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them.
While addressing Kenyans at Keringet Market, an agitated Ruto talked tough, reiterating the need for peace in Kenya, and proceeded to claim that some parties were huge beneficiaries of the protests in Kenya.
Hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani? Vijana sio wa kufanya fujo. Vijana ni wa kufanya kazi. Na hiyo ndio mpango tuko naye ya kupanga ajira ya hawa vijana. Wakati tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa affordable housing, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa hii markets, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa digital jobs.
The president alleged that the parties in question had been funneling funds to unidentified groups in Kenya to stage protests and destabilize the country.
Because they are sponsoring violence against our democratic nation. Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation watuambie.
President Ruto further alleged that the organization harbored ill motives and was operating against Kenya's best interests and democracy.
We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave.
President Ruto reiterated similar sentiments while on a development tour in Nakuru.
Vijana wetu wa Kenya, tafadhali msikubali ati watu wafanye nchi yetu iwe ni nchi ya kupigana, ya kuharibu mali na ya fujo. Nakuru wamesema hatutaki fujo, hatutaki vita, hatutaki kuharibu mali ya taifa letu la Kenya. Tunataka kuweka amani katika taifa letu la Kenya, ndio kila Mkenya apate nafasi ya kufanya kazi, ya kuhustle na ya kujitegemea.
The president further urged the youth to avoid being cronies of such powerful parties.
Hebu wale wanasema we want peace katika Nakuru na Kenya, hiyo ndio msimamo wa taifa letu la Kenya. Those behind the criminal activity against our children, against our daughters in Kware, all of them, the government of Kenya will make sure that they are brought to book and they are charged so that we can stop criminality in the Republic of Kenya and protect our children, our daughters, and all citizens of the Republic of Kenya.
Incidentally, The president's remarks follow those of the government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura made on June 22nd, where he claimed that some international players were involved in funding the protests.
Kwa sababu kuna vile nimesikiza hii kelele nikasikiza, na kuna watu wako genuine na ndio wengi ambao wanauliza maswali genuine, lakini kuna ka group kako mahali ambao nikiangalia kwa umbali could be even there is a foreign hand into this whole issue. Kwa nini?
Mwaura further remarks that some foreign powers were not happy with Ruto's efforts to end reliance on the United States dollar as the main currency for international trade, hence their interference in Kenyan politics.
Kwa sababu dola ikiwa ndio iko na nguvu, inachukua nguvu zote za uchumi. Akasema tutafute infrastructure mpya ya financing international. So hawezi wakataka tutoke kwa hiyo utumwa.
The government had on July 3rd indicated that the police were investigating 6 politicians, a businessman, and 2 non-governmental organizations believed to be financing the protests. Among those being investigated were a politician from Rift Valley, 3 from Nairobi, and 2 from Central Kenya. A businessman based in the Rift Valley and 2 NGOs, 1 local and 1 international, were being investigated as well. During the Gen Z protests around the country, people's businesses and properties were also destroyed by unknown looters.
Mtu wa protest tukatai, lakini kila mtu achane na duka ya msee. Kila mtu ako kazi, sisi tunakulaga hapa kila siku na hapa ndio tusi utoa unga. Na hatuwezi kubali ati siku moja iharibike kwa mwaka.
The protests later evolved into a clamor for Ruto's resignation, where demonstrators demanded the government take responsibility for alleged police brutality. In the wake of Gen Z protests, many Kenya Kwanza leaders have been circling the wagons around President William Ruto Samoei. To them, the chief hustler is a victim of circumstances. Their defense is that Kenya's debt woes started with Uhuru Kenyatta. There are many other wild theories on the protests, including mentions of faceless people unhappy with Ruto's recent visit to the US. However, these claims haven't pacified Gen Zs. Disillusioned by socio-economic challenges and a political landscape dominated by the old guard, they have become lethal in piling pressure. Besides the withdrawal of the finance bill, the cabinet has now been fired.
Decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and attorney general of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya.
On Tuesday, when President Ruto signed the IEBC bill, Raila Odinga was left with an egg in the face. His public support for dialogue, or is it handshake with the Gen Zs, while striking a cautious union with Ruto, attracted the fury of supporters. Ruto critics wanted Raila to leave the president to his own devices, but for the ODM chief, it was damn if he did and damn if he didn't. Taking sides with Ruto angered Gen Zs who had told Agwambo to stay away, but also castigating the president would have inflamed cynicism. Raila instantly became Johannes, or JP, in quote and unquote mind boy by Peter Abrahams, a tormentor and a defender rolled into one. It's now a wait-and-see situation, as pundits argue that, first, emergence of a Gen Z political party seems inevitable. The youth movement will crystallize into a force in 2027. The metamorphosis will follow the orange script, just like the anti-draft constitution wave in 2005 that gave rise to no side symbolized by an orange letter ODM. It birthed the ODM party. it will be the same script with different players. The leaderless nature of Gen Zs is temporary, with frontliners like Miss Shakira Wafula poised to step into the spotlight with a formal outfit. Their tribeless identity is a unifying factor, needed to challenge the status quo. More Gen Zs will register to vote, but even if they form a party, timing is everything. Second, Ruto and Raila might team up in 2027. They have a lot in common than the Gen Zs. The decision by the Azimio leader to watch the president back suggests imminent political harmony. The Gen Z revolution would typically have been Raila's glory moment against the president, given their bitter history. It doesn't matter how Raila's quest for the AU Commission job pans out. Even if he doesn't get it and doesn't contest the presidency in 2027, he will decide who wins the elections.
Having been faithful and committed to building a national, democratic and progressive Kenya.
It will be interesting to see if a Gen Z alliance would beat a Ruto-Raila camp at the ballot. If the ODM chief lands the AU post, it will be more reason to stick with Ruto like glue. For Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Bushabi Jr.